And you can use your own postcards, and I think it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the podcasting, YouTubing, and online content, how to get started and making your mark panel at Women of Color Beyond Belief 2022. So, the world of online activism and content is exploding, especially amongst the non-religious demographic. And today we're going to go over some good techniques for women of color to get started, develop a great presence, and maintain healthy spaces in this arena. So, joining me today is Mandisa Thomas, she, her, hers. Mandisa is the founder and president of Black Nonbelievers. She has multiple media appearances to her credit, including CBS Sunday Morning, CNN, and Playboy. Oh, shit. Excuse me, it's so early in the morning, but I gotta get on that level. The Humanist and Jet Magazine. Okay, that's also something too. She has been a guest on programs such as the Humanist Hour and NPR's 1A and Code Switch, as well as the documentaries Contradiction and My Week in Atheism. Mandisa, who is now a humanist celebrant, also co-hosts In the Cut, the new YouTube show for Black Nonbelievers. Yay. Next is Cynthia McDonald, she, her, hers. Cynthia is an infectious disease medical case manager where she works with people living with HIV in the city of Chicago. Awesome. She authors a blog called freedmenshealthandwellness.com, which addresses the social determinants of health of Black Americans that descend from chattel slavery. She's been a guest on several podcasts and is a regular host on the Nonprofits and Women Atheists Unload. And finally, last but certainly not least, is Jenna Miyu, she, her, hers. Jenna has played an active role in the secular online community for the past 3 years. Oh, so we definitely gotta link up. Well, we all gotta link up. She created her own YouTube channel, Black Female Atheist, co-anchors the International Freethinkers channel, co-produces and co-hosts the Nonprofits show, and provides support for other YouTube and Discord platforms. In her professional life, she is a full-time licensed nurse and student. Okay, so we're gonna have a little discussion, answer some questions, and then I guess if we have time for Q&A, we'll do Q&A. Awesome. So, question for everyone on the panel. When did you get started in the online content community, and what are your favorite topics of discussion?
You start that?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Mandy's. I appreciate that. The way that I got started was basically through the pandemic. I had no plans on doing podcasting, YouTubing, etc., etc. I used to listen to a lot of them, but I never thought that I would be in this space. The way that I got started was pretty much with a fluke. I have a now friend that I met listening to Talk Heathen one day. And it was a young man named Ethan Michael, who was also in the Chicagoland area, who's out of Romeoville. And he was starting his own channel called The Friendly Atheist Neighbor. Your neighborhood atheist. Yes, your friendly neighborhood atheist. Thank you. I should know that. Sorry, Ethan. But so I decided that I was gonna, just like listen to his channel, check him out, things of that nature. And when I was listening to him actually debating a presuppositionalist apologist, Christian apologist, and when I was listening, what did the guy say? He said that the reason why that we have more evidence for Jesus' existence than we do Julius Caesar. And I went like crazy in the comment section. I was like, that is not true. We have the death mask of Caesar. We've seen coins where he actually was aging. Like, we have way more archaeological data that corroborates Julius Caesar's life, but we don't have that for Jesus. So when he saw like all of my comments, he's like, oh my God, I have to friend you. And I was like, okay. So we started talking, and he asked me, did you want to do like a reaction video? And I was like, yeah, to who? He's like, Steven Crowder. I was like, oh boy. Okay. But at that particular time, I didn't even know who Steven Crowder was. And then this is when he was really big on making me change my mind. And so I did a reaction video with him, and had something to do with him saying something racist, which is like every other day. And then from there, we started to just build this like relationship with each other. Well, then the pandemic happened, and then we started to get data as far as like the mortality rates, and it was like huge, of course, in the Black African American community. And so he brought myself and another person on his channel to talk about it. And as we were discussing it, and I was just basically just telling him that a lot of the issues that we're having with such a high mortality rate and infection rate of COVID-19 amongst African Americans is historical. We have a very large disparity when it comes to healthcare in our community, and that's for a lot of different reasons. So, long story short, that birthed a show called The 13%, where me and this other person we're hosting, and we were just basically talking about technology. Okay. We were basically we were basically just talking about a lot of social, economic, and political issues that affect African Americans. And so as we went on, me and the host, we parted ways for various reasons, and then my lovely partner stepped in, and then we started to do the show together, the self-proclaimed Pope of Atheism, Arthur Ward. So we were doing that show for a while, and then he started to do more stuff on blogging, and I started to do more things like working with the ACA, with the nonprofits, also doing like a lot of other guest hosting on different shows. Eventually, I was asked by Now Skeptic Haven if I could be a regular host on Women Atheists Unload, and I then ended up starting my own channel. But I have yet to really get content on it because of time. So it was mostly like a fluke, but it was really just about just like building those relationships and like, meeting people like Mandy's. Matter of fact, I think we met on a round table, right? We were doing
That's what we first did.
Yeah.
That's what we did first.
Yeah. Yeah, Black Non-Believers Roundtable on Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist. Yeah, so that's basically my story in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I more or less, excuse me, voice going out. More or less, my start kind of similar to Cynthia's, started as a fluke too. I guess as far back as I remember, it started in August of 2019, where just within that same month, give or take, I had just completed my process of 7 years deconstructing my faith and officially, realizing that I was a non-believer, an atheist. And so I happened to be watching a Talk Heathen live show coming home from church, because coming off of Sunday school, I was just not necessarily tormented, but something in regards to whatever discussion they were having wasn't sitting with me well, and it made me really upset. And somehow on my YouTube feed, I saw the live show of Talk Heathen, saw they had a Discord server, which is like a social community you kind of join to speak with others, mainly used for gaming, but also used for socializing. So I joined it, and it just took off from there. I know within a few months of joining this server, I became one of their moderators. I think a part of me just proactively wanted to strive to communicate with people, because for 7 years prior to that, I didn't communicate with anyone as far as my non-belief. I kept it hidden, silent. I didn't ask anyone questions or try to find out what all this meant, especially for a person that's Black, that didn't, to most, or especially within that community, doesn't compute, more or less. Being a Black individual and not having faith is, seen as something so utterly ridiculous in most circles, especially regarding my family. But so joining that, being an active member, being a moderator, allowed me to feel comfortable to learn and understand where I was at that state. And not too long after, a good friend of mine, Justin, he encouraged me to start a YouTube channel. And before then, I didn't show my face just because I was fearful. So no one knew up until that point, except for him and a couple of close others, what I looked like. So long story short, we started that early February 2020, and we had some hiatus here or there, some views more or less, but it was nice to feel some level of comfort, just put my face on screen and just either talk to one or two people or to my friend at the time. And through that, I think that's how I joined one of those Black atheist roundtables on the Friendly Neighborhood Atheist channel. And that's where I met Cynthia. And I had known of Mandita sometime before that, but that's how I got introduced to Cynthia. And then from that, we had a close friend that was also moderator from the ACA Discord, or the, if you don't know, it's the Atheist Community of Austin. And he lended my name over to Johnny Angel. You may host for Talk Heathen and all over the place, mainly. And he, talked to me, asked if I wanted to be one of the new revamped hosts, or one of the new rotating hosts, I should say, of the revamped, the nonprofit show. Because at that time, COVID had hit and things were, for that particular show, they did a lot of street epistemology. So, with shutdowns and everything, that was a no-go. So they went more virtual. And for about a year, I was consistent in not only being a rotating host, but a producer. I haven't done much shows since, but hopefully in the future, I'll get back to it since, circumstances are changing. But that elevated to now, being on other YouTube channels, exposure, interviews, talking with others, mainly with now co-owning a YouTube channel with my partner, Oz, the Atheist Network Group, or we also refer to ourselves as TANG, to be short. Mainly those discussions we have are surrounded about mental health heavily. And for me, with having my own show on the channel, or two shows, I should say, I strive to want to have discussions with other Black non-believers and other non-white ethnic races. And of course, striving to have more discussions surrounding how intricate and different and unique being Black and without faith, and how that road and transition can be quite difficult for most, and how many of us are just not open. Even for me, for a long time, it took me a while to come out of the closet, so to speak. And that's only recently happened within the last few months. And so far, it's been about 4 years since I've been an atheist. So that's how my start has essentially generated.
Yes, so for those of you who don't know, I've been involved in the secular community now for 11 years.
And I really, I remember the first interview that I did with the co-founder of the local Black Nonbelievers when it was Black Nonbelievers of Atlanta. And I just remember from there being invited to speak on like different platforms and doing different interviews. I remember before I got involved, I watched episodes of the Atheist Experience before the ACA expanded their programming. And you couldn't tell me that a few years later that I would be actually on the program and people would be saying that they recognize me from those shows. But Kevon Cameron, who was in the audience and our New York City affiliate organizer, said he wanted to do a show for Black nonbelievers on our YouTube channel. We had previously done the Black family discussion about Christianity, white supremacy, and true liberation. And I was very hesitant for a long time to get involved with online content because a lot of my focus is on in-person community and bringing people together, like taking things from online to offline. And so I do moderate heavily our Facebook group for Black nonbelievers. Some of you are a part of it. You know, we don't tolerate much bullshit there. But, and the main purpose for that is to share a lot of what we're doing and to try to continue that support system for people. But when Kevon pitched doing the YouTube show and the premise for it, which is to amplify and highlight the work of the Black atheist demographic, as well as content creators, clinicians, people who are doing work in this community. We actually launched it on January 1st of this year, on New Year's Day. And that is one of my missions, and what I focus on is to try to get more people involved, letting other people know about the work that is being done in this community, as well as supporting it. Because that is, whether you're doing things in person or online, the online content creators are just as important. It's a network, it's a community, and that's really important to me.
Wonderful, wonderful. What are some challenges faced by non-white secular content creators? And anyone can start.
Start that, Cynthia.
Oh, okay.
Sure, I'll start that. Well, I would say like the first challenge is just being seen, right?
Right.
And what I mean by that is that the secular online community is heavily cisgender, heterosexual, white male.
Yes.
Okay. And so, I mean, like, if I just threw out names, like, you're Seth Andrews, you're Magdalene Hunties, you're, et cetera, it's like, Aaron Ra, I like all these people, you know these people, they travel, they speak, they debated, people know who they are. So when you see, like, a Mandisa, which was like, when I first heard Mandisa was on the Thinking Atheist with Seth Andrews. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's other Black people who are actually non-believers that are women. What? I mean, that's pretty much almost non-existent in our community. So having that just be a thing to be seen and to be heard, and also another thing that I would say that a challenge is that a lot of people, I would say, are not used to seeing Black women that are non-believers, and that they are, not only that they are not non-believers, but they actually can string a sentence together.
Right.
Where we actually sound like that, we are not stupid. And, and some people just don't know how to take that. I have to tell a story. So,
yeah, tell it.
So to promote this particular conference, I was invited to come on another channel called Sonetta TV. And Sonetta is big in the Black consciousness community, and it's followed by a lot of Black Hebrew Israelites. And that was Yeah, that was interesting. And so, and even though I was like familiar, but I wasn't like a regular watcher, right? And so like I was invited to come on after one of their moderators actually saw me on Talk Heathen. And they said, oh yeah, we have Mandisa on a couple of times too. So they ended up asking Mandisa to come on as well. After a while, you know, Mandisa said like, you know, you owe me a drink when I come to Chicago.
Yeah.
I said, I got you. So, so anywho, but while we were on there, we were just telling our story, how we became to be atheists, how, you know, I know like for me, and like Jenna, we were big in like our churches, right? And I've spent the majority of my life as a Christian. And being a Christian is very much so like that's like part of like your identity as being Black. It's almost like tied together like DNA and RNA.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So now that you have like somebody that's out here, not only not a Christian, but also a non-believer. I don't subscribe to any supernatural claims, and am able to actually explain that in the best manner possible. We get challenged, and especially like by men. You know, like how dare you? Because like, what did the other guy accuse us of? As being like, you know, crazy feminist or something like that. Oh, yeah. You know, I'm like, I didn't say any of that, but whatever. You know, I'm like, and so like a lot of times those things get conflated, like, you know, political views, worldviews, things like that, just for just having one position of being a non-believer. So, you know, we have to like a lot of times fight those particular challenges because of like how people would actually see us, and even, you know, their own biases that they would actually put on us just because like, you know, we're women in this particular realm, we're Black women, and there's a certain stigma of a position that we're supposed to have that we're not really subscribing to. So that, I would say that's one of the biggest that I can think of.
Just a question. This was recently, and they accused you guys of being crazy feminists, feminazis.
And before we turn it over to Jenna, they did a follow-up the next day.
Of course.
That they did a live stream that went for 7 hours.
Oh gosh.
7 hours.
Wow.
It's still
Ours was 3.5, which was bad enough. Yeah. But
yes, in 2022, being a feminist is still an insult. Oh, Lord.
Whew.
Sorry.
Complaining about us 7 hours for 7 hours. Yeah, that was great.
Y'all definitely made an impression.
Sure.
I'm sure that was. Oh boy. I guess just to echo pretty much what Cynthia said. Yes, there is this. For me, I found a lot of difficulty as far as the fear of, you know, not only being seen but heard as well. Because when I jumped into the ACT Discord, I was immediate. I almost, it was like a huge culture shock, I will say, because, you know, obviously, not even until that point I have even known of a, you know, a Black non-believer. So, you know, seeing all these other individuals, and the immediate topic all day, every day was on philosophy, which was a subject matter I never learned in school. I knew of it, but not as intense as, you know, breaking it down so intricately to the point where you just want to shoot yourself in the face, because it was just, you know, too much. And you listen to all these ranting and ravings of people really about philosophical arguments, like terms that I didn't even know, like indoctrination and deconversion and being, you know, all of these other different arguments and things like that that I didn't even understand, even though I knew what those words meant, but that was never in my lexicon up until that point. And you just get this sense of feeling like so displaced, and, you know, this is not like the space for me, and you question yourself, like, am I supposed to learn philosophy to be an atheist? Is that the prerequisite?
Yeah,
you know?
the journey can feel overwhelming.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, you know, that struck me for a while, and I almost found myself wanting to just kind of float away, but luckily I found encouraging other friends that I have to this day that kept me around. But, you know, among that also is, you know, it's still echoing what Cynthia was said, feeling as if you're not heard in this unfamiliar space. And also the insinuation that you're creating a whole new space just to cause conflict. For example, I remember doing a pre-recorded talk or discussion on Normalizing Atheism's channel, where I had talked about, having faith as a Black woman and then not having faith as a Black woman. And of course, that's labeled as Black atheism. That was the title of the video. And I read in the comments, one particular person was accusing me of creating a subgroup that should not and did not exist, as if I was striving to create conflict within atheism. Their argument was, we have enough of that from Christians, all their denominations, we have enough of that from politics. Why do you want to split people? You're just being, you're just being derogatory and playing your Black card on purpose.
Right.
And I was like, this already existed before I even started talking about it. That just shows the lack of representation here in this online community, for one. And two, ignorance. Ignorance of the fact that no matter the space you're in, you're always going to be met with those separations, whether good or bad. I think it is, great to have that space for certain individuals to have those discussions amongst, shared like people, and then to, cultivate with others. Both should be had, but it should not be, you should not be belittled for discussing it. And I, for a time or two, struggled with that, but found my voice and my strength on top of all that, noise, and, striving to be a voice for those that at the time when I was closeted did not or had fear or could not speak out like I was. Like, yes, my face and my voice now is on YouTube. No one outside of that, my family or church or whatever, knew of that and still don't. So I felt encouraged and brave enough to keep doing, showing up, being more outspoken, doing all I could just so that I can discover more people like Cynthia, more people like Maya Atkinson, more people like Mandisa, all those individuals. And, when you find that, it's so comforting and it makes you feel, for me, less crazy or less, thinking that I'm not making a bad decision, or this is somewhere where I feel safe and I can truly be myself.
Yeah, I would say that some of the challenges I see, and this is just from being a guest and also watching other YouTube shows and also having been a guest on podcasts, that world is very, very competitive. It is extremely competitive, and you can understand that people are trying to make their mark, especially now that YouTube, once you get to a certain level of a number of subscribers as well as a number of hours, that you can monetize it.
Yes.
But it's also that, and because of that, the market is very saturated, and also people think it's easy. I think it's something easy to do.
It is not.
Podcasting, the equipment that goes into it, the time that you have to put into finding content, and doing all that stuff is not easy. And there are so many people who think that, oh, well, I can just get on YouTube and talk shit. No, if you want a quality product, you have to make an investment. And also, what tends to happen with folks online is that, they become those keyboard warriors, and they think because they're hiding behind the screen that they can just say whatever they want. The whole thing about why does there need to be a Black atheist organization, or why do you have to have, a show that represents or talks about Black atheists? That is as old as, I remember getting that when I got involved, and clearly that has not changed. And because we keep hearing that is why we need why we exist.
Yes.
That is why we need to continue to do these things. But also, there seems to be a lack of cohesion amongst Black atheist content creators, because there are still very few of us in comparison. And, there are people who say, well, I wish there was more content out there. Well, first of all, there is. You just have to find it. But also, you have to be looking for it. But You have to support the current content creators so that we can put our stuff out there more.
Right.
You know, we have, you know, we are dealing with a deficit in support than the other ones because they get more people to support them. And that's partially because, you know, the market is so saturated. However, it's about more than just wishing for it to happen and actually making it happen and collaborating and networking with the content creators that are already out there, as well as the community organizers, so that we can work together to promote our work.
Yeah, I think I'd also add, you know, given there are obstacles against you on the platforms themselves, you know, the YouTube algorithm.
Right.
If your content is too political, it may not be seen as you know, by many people, or like even if you're like a really big channel, it's possible that it may not be monetized. So even building up the brand on there, it becomes a bit of a challenge. But you know, we're all we got, so we got to find each other, we got to network, we got to collaborate, we got to build, you know, that genuine solidarity that we need. So agreed. And last question, how can future content creators be developed and supported by communities online and in person? And anyone could start.
Jenny, you want to take that first, since you do the most?
Oh, sure, yes. I know with me and my partner Oz both on the Atheist Network group, we strive a lot to promote and make those that are lesser known. What I mean by that is we encourage anyone in our live chat, anyone that happens to send us an email or just a one-time viewer or striving to grow their own channel that's unique to them, as long as it is within our goals and it's healthy and it's, you know, we need more faces, we need more voices, we need more different people talking about different things, but striving and, like Mandisa said, being cohesive in the message too. You know, and you know, not with the, if you know the Atheist Network group, my boyfriend Oz, he is a bit more lively than I am on occasion, but he is a brilliant, you know, as far as business-minded person when it comes to understanding what the audience gravitates to. And for us, we have built and are still growing a platform that is, you know, seeking to hear what the common people want to talk about or hear what they have to say. It's putting aside the philosophical arguments, putting aside the politics, and sometimes that stuff creeps up, sure. But mainly, like I discussed, we're focused on mental health. We're focused on understanding where people are and supporting them. You know, fundraising and raising money or getting them past that 100 subscriber mark so they can make a unique URL on their own page. Anything and everything we, you know, want to, because we genuinely love and care about people. And I think if you start there, if you have that foundation, I don't think you can go wrong. And, you know, for one, I would say, even though I'm still kind of, I feel like the last 4 years have gone by so fast. I feel that for me, landing in the space that I am, I definitely have a privilege. And, you know, there's also that combined understanding that you have to be that representation of the whole. That's a lot of pressure. I wouldn't recommend having that pressure on yourself. As long as you continue to be yourself and, you know, audiences or viewers or friends, whomever gravitate to it and support you, then you cannot go wrong. And, you know, also remembering those that, you know, those that you knew before you blew up, let's say, for example, being humble and being able to still be a person that's approachable and communicate and just be normal and a friend. It's already too much that we have, you know, as we have stated, the really well-known names, but you know, when we had our channel, we do a conference too. We had a conference earlier this year in June, known as Better, and we'll have one next year, where we had all these big name speakers like Dave Warnock and Seth Andrews and Dr. Josh Bowen. Brilliant individuals, but humble so humble and so gracious and so easy to talk to and approachable. Even several times Seth Andrews would tap me on the shoulder because I was helping Oz with the whole conference, saying, "Oh, can I help you with anything?" "No, Seth Andrews, you're too great." But it's that genuine love and humbleness that I think pushes these particular individuals that I admire forward. And I think if you continue that, like I said, you can't go wrong.
Awesome. I would add, because I'm going to give it to Cynthia to close it out. It's almost the same or very similar to how you get involved in person. Do not be afraid to take on menial tasks. Do not be afraid to do things behind the scenes. It's a learning process. It's a skill, especially if you are trying to build your brand. Get involved with another podcast. Get involved with another YouTube show. See how you can help on the back end. Understand what that's like. And also, don't be afraid to do your research. If you need coaching on how to speak,
Yes.
it's good to do that. Good, practice it in the mirror, practice it with somebody else. These are things that are important if you are looking to, and make sure that the content or the subject matter that you are looking to speak on is credible, because that is what, there are a lot of these podcasts and these shows out here that are in the manosphere, if you will, or even like that, what we saw on Sonetter TV, that are, they are based in a lot of intellectualism, and sure, there are some things that are maybe good for entertainment value, and it is good to make your content at least somewhat entertaining and somewhat fun, but it does need to be more educational and credible in nature. And the best way to do that is to try to become a part of a team. Like I said, do not leave 1 to 2 people to do all of this work, because, and it's good if you are multifaceted and are able to do it, but it's better to work more together. And whatever the OGs or whatever longtime folks who are in this, have been in this field, tell you, listen. Listen to them. Make sure that you are taking those notes, because again, it takes practice, it takes time, and it may be frustrating. But that's the way that is good. That's the way. If you continue to be dedicated and focused on it, then the hard work will pay off.
I like to also say amen to what Jenna and Mandy used to say. I can say that at an Atheist conference, right?
No.
Ramen. Okay, well, Ashe. But I'll also say, don't be afraid to lean yourself to learning.
Yes.
I think that a lot of times when people come into this space, they think that they know everything, or they don't particularly care for some honest feedback and lend themselves to criticism. And I don't know how else you can grow as an individual if you don't do that. I remember just like learning how to do a lot of different things when we first started our YouTube show. I learned how to make intro videos. I learned how to make thumbnails. I learned how to, I even tried to polish my speaking skills, because even though I was used to being on stage, it was more so performing. I've done acting and I've done singing. But it's a whole different space when you're actually sitting in front of a camera and either if you're monologuing the content that you are doing at that particular time, to try to do it in a way that you're coming across that you're being understood. And also to be able to learn how to have dialogues with others, or even multiple discourses, especially if you're on a platform with maybe 5 or 10 people, especially if you're doing a panel. So you have to lend yourself into learning in order for you to be able to navigate that space properly. And don't be afraid to say, hey, you know, especially if you know people who have been doing it for a long time, to ask questions. Will you mentor me? Will you help me as far as like learning how to do this because I'm trying to grow, you know, my channel, my content, or what have you. And another thing that I do, especially now, because I'm an associate producer also on the nonprofits. So other people that I meet that's within this particular space, especially if they're Black, I ask them, hey, would you like to be a guest host on nonprofits? And that way they can get their face seen. We have over 11,000 subscribers, so that's a good way for them to help get their name out there so people can subscribe to their channels. So I know that next week we're going to have on the Caribbean, the Skeptic Caribbean Secularist, or Phil the Skeptic. He is a member of the Humanist Society of Barbados. And we met, and I was like, I'm going to lend your name to be on the nonprofits. And I even did that with the Afro-Humanist. I loved her show, and I was like, she needs to be on the nonprofits, and we had her on. And like the more that I meet other people who happen to be in this space, especially, you know, this expanding voices that's like within the globe, because like we do have a privilege being in the United States that we have some type of protections where we can be atheists and not necessarily be concerned about, you know, people coming to get us out of our beds at night or going to jail or things of that nature. But that's not always the case in other countries. So if we are able to open up the door for people to know about other atheists who happen to be in the diaspora, and to help really normalize it, it will probably lend them better protection as well, because the more we're seeing that, hey, atheists are just like you and me. We don't boil babies on the weekend and have like ceremonies to bacchanal, like, and all this stuff like that. That
Speak for yourself.
Okay. Well, I don't. Well, and others. So if they get to see that we're just like regular people, just like normal people like you and me, we get up, we go to work, we take care of our children, we worry about paying bills, all this other stuff, just like normal people do, then it will probably be less apt to be stigmatized. So if we can really help try to create that space so that other people can do their thing uninhibited, then I believe that's also part of doing the work.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Do we have time for
We have time
Q&A?
for few questions for in person and online. I'll be looking at the questions in the chat.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions, maybe we can use that mic.
Yeah, you can use yours. Yeah. Okay. Have them come on in. Or just right there. Or just right where you were. Right here? Okay.
Sorry. Hey, this is for Jenna. I was curious because I heard you on In the Cut, and you were saying that you hadn't come out to your family yet. They don't know about the work you do. I just was wondering if you were working towards that, or is that something you're keeping to yourself?
As I kind of precluded earlier, because I remember being on the cut with Cynthia April. So that was like 5, 6 months ago. So, update, I guess you could say. I have come out to my family middle of August of this year. And since then it has been a deep struggle to the point where it's shaken up my life, their life. And, there's a lot of transition that I'm going through right now as far as, moving out and things like that. But as far as my content online, no, I refrain from even mentioning that. And if they happen to discover it, then fine. Because for the longest time when I was closeted, this was here, and if you don't know, I'm sitting on the floor. This is my bed. This is like how I made my setup. This has been essentially my safe corner, my safe space, where I can safely communicate and find and make friends when I didn't have any, and when I didn't feel secure enough to find the outside, or when I just had the inability to. So even with them now knowing that I'm an atheist, I still won't mention my content. I won't mention me doing conferences or things like that, because I still want this to be safe for me. I don't want this to be anything that they can one day call me up and say da 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 da, and if they find out they're wrong, fine. But me openly, no.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So my question, Jenna mentioned something that kind of brought this to my awareness, is around what kind of things can we do to support it besides, like, you know, giving money. Obviously, like what she said was getting up to 100 subscribers puts you at a threshold for XYZ. So I'm wondering what other things drive algorithms or thresholds and stuff like that. So, because I'm typically not the type of person that does things like subscribe and stuff, but if I know it helps you all, I'll do it, but I just don't know what helps.
Yeah, pushing that like button, subscribing, hitting that bell so that you get notifications. All of that really does help the algorithm, and it helps pushes your content out to other places and suggestions to other people so that you can actually gain more people to look at it. And also sharing on your social media platforms. So like if you have a Facebook, a Twitter, Instagram, et cetera, then that's a helpful way to, you know, make sure that you can get more people to get eyes on it. Like, hey, my friend Mandisa is going to be on In the Cut today. Here's the URL. Go check it out and make sure you subscribe, et cetera, et cetera. So that, you know, that definitely does help as far as like being able to get more people, more eyes on looking at your content. So yeah, like, you know, so for, you know, if you want to call to action for people in the audience. Did you want to add?
Yeah, I agree. And for, as far as podcasting, because there are different platforms for podcasting. You have Apple, Podbean, Amazon now, has a podcasting platform. If you subscribe to any of those, you can certainly check out, and if there's a podcast, you can certainly subscribe or like, and yeah, that's the easiest thing to do. Hit that button. Yes.
Hey, I'm back. So this is for you and Kevon. I don't know why I do that. How'd you guys come up with the name for the show? Like, what was that
that's
process?
Very interesting.
What was that process like? Picking that name.
So we have quarterly organizer meetings at the BNT. And as we really started to strategize on the show and how we wanted to market it, what we wanted it to look like, what we wanted it to sound like, because we wanted to make sure that it was reflective of Black culture and things that we might say. And so let's shout out to LaTanya, who is our Portland, Oregon affiliate organizer. We were just, you know, saying, what about being in the cut? Because, you know, part of, again, the mission of the show is to, sorry, I'll hold the mic up a little bit more. And I also will need to look into the camera too for the streaming folks. So, again, we feature special guests, and we also share our upcoming events, whether they're meetings, conferences, all of those things. So we want people to be, you know, in the know, but, you know, this is also highlighting a demographic that isn't as well known as it should be. So when she said being in the cut, because we want people to be in, you know, we want people to know what's going on with us, what we have going on, that we aren't just simply an organization that represents Black atheists. We are actually doing shit. You know, we are doing things, and we are advocating and supporting as well. So we wanted people to know that. But I will tell you, and I'm going to put Kevin on the spot. He hated that name. But my motto is, if you can think of something else, be my guest. I don't like to be the one to think of everything, because this is a team effort. And when you come to me with an idea, I'm gonna put your ass to work. But also too, it was important because it does help, the organization. It does help with our visibility. We have doubled our YouTube subscribers since we've done this show. And I want to make sure that, thank you. And what's important to me is making sure that our leadership is developed, that leadership pipeline, because we really do have some good organizers. We have good team members. We have really good folks that we connect with. And they deserve to have that. They deserve to have that space and that voice. And I do my best to develop that. Even if that isn't something that they thought they could do, we try to develop that in a way that, that puts them out there. And next week, Kevin will be one of the speakers at California Free Thought Day. So, it really does make a difference when we develop each other, when we help with that. And I'm glad to be mostly behind the scenes with that show, because it is his show, but it is important for us to amplify our voices as well, and for people to see me in a way that is not just simply, on the screen, or that I am unapproachable in any way. I get in and do the grunt work too. So yeah, the concept was to really, and make it so informal, that it's not just simply a talk show. We like to shoot the shit, but we want people to hear the folks that are featured, and also to know what is going on and what we're doing. So it was interesting. We had to come up with it and develop it because we knew it was going to be on a wide platform. And we also wanted to make sure that it was noted. It is always professional too. So, and we will be doing an episode live during the lunch break here. So yeah, and Jim is going to be our special guest. So make sure on the lunch break y'all tune in.
Okay, so this question is about expanding audiences. So I went to this webinar recently, and one of the panelists said, if you meet at the town hall, you always have the same people that you know, but when you go out into the community is when you have different people. So how do you make sure your audience is expanding and it's not always the same Black non-believers or the same people all the time, especially like in the Black community?
So we love our core supporters, we love our core audiences. Those are important. However, when we do tabling, when we are doing outreach, we make sure that we have flyers for wherever we are. We mention it. It becomes a part of our lingo and our language. When people are asking about our work who aren't aware, we tell them all the time, we have this show. And we encourage people to watch. So yeah, it really goes hand in hand with what it is that we do on a regular basis when we are having and it's important for us to have these conversations about the work we do, and also encourage people to watch, especially if they've never heard of us. So that becomes a part of, definitely the advertising and promoting, to making sure that we have that literature about our show. And I think everyone else should too.
Also, I would say, especially if you're doing mostly online content, is to be more involved with people who are, don't be afraid to go on different shows to promote your particular show. Don't be afraid to, even join Discord servers where people are different from you. One of the things that I don't particularly care for are echo chambers. You can't have honest conversations like that. So if you actually lend yourself to being in different spaces where you can meet more people and say, hey, by the way, I have a show, why don't you go ahead and check it out? That could actually expand your audience as well, and then so that they can start sharing your content too.
Yeah, and to add to that, yeah, just online is very unique. So being able to be open to discussions. I know a lot of people that I know do debates or just panel discussions or one-on-one interviews, whatever you feel comfortable the most. I personally don't do debates. I'm more on the lines of just having panel discussions or one-on-ones. That's just me. But also, utilizing your other social media platforms to promote and push your content as well as sharing others. That helps not only stimulate, their platform and viewers, but also yours as well. And, if their viewers like discussing or find it interesting you, then great. But yes, having that core platform, core viewers, like Mandisa had mentioned, is important because if you have that core, that foundation of people that are all about what you do and speak highly of your content, they will be your biggest pushers more than you would ever be on your own.
All right, so thanks for coming to this morning's panel. I want to thank our panelists, Jenna, Cynthia, Mandisa. As always, you all were lovely, informative, lively. This is a great discussion. Thanks for joining us, guys, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Recording stopped.
Hey guys, hope y'all enjoyed that little panel, and look forward to more live streaming certain panels from Women of Color Beyond Belief throughout the weekend, and enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.